Hello and welcome to Red Gaming Tech. My name is Marta. Today is the 19th of December and I'm here as always to give you a daily dose of your latest gaming news. This time I'm bringing you a bit of an update for South Park: The Stick of Truth, as I previously mentioned in a video the other day that the game did not make it past the Australian classification board in uncut form. And for those of you wondering, well, what changes did they make, Marta? How badly is the game going to be changed compared to the versions of the US and the EU? And well, supposedly, according to Obsidian, they've had to replace certain scenes with text descriptions and an image of a crying koala. And yes, I'm being deadly serious. Now, of course, there were a couple of reports pertaining to both submissions, as of course the game was submitted twice, once under the South Park Stick of Truth name and once under the name Codename, and the chain of events has finally been reconstructed. Now, the final version will be released in Australia and will be missing an entire interactive sequence in which the player character, among others, is subjected to anal probing by alien technology. Now, when Australian players reach this section, they will find themselves confronted by an image of a crying koala, which accompanies a vivid text description of the events. And the board did rule that these text descriptions are allowable as humour, but of course the scene itself is not. Now, of course, this was implemented after the board rejected an earlier modified version of which some elements of the scene had been toned down. Now, the sticking point is the Australian Classification Board's content guidelines, which does not permit games that, quote, depict, express or otherwise deal with matters of sex, drug misuse or addiction, crime, cruelty, violence or revolting or abhorrent phenomena in such a way that they offend against the standards of morality, decency and propriety generally accepted by reasonable adults, to the extent they should not be classified. And under the highest ratings of categories for video games in Australia, which of course are 18+, that it is allowed that, quote, implied sexual violence that is visually depicted, interactive, not justified by context, or related to incentives or rewards is not permitted. So, as you can see, it's pretty clear why that particular scene did not make the cut in Australia. Still, it's finally good to get some clarification, as I'm sure many were concerned about the game after I revealed that it had been censored and modified in Australia. Now, I do wonder what modifications they made in the first instance, because of course they submitted it in a slightly modified state with the scene having been toned down, and even then the Australian Classification Board were like, no, not having it. And of course, the only way it was able to get through was with a text description and not having that scene be playable. Now, you can see why it was disallowed with those, excuse me, with those rules that I just explained to you there, but it does seem a bit weak that this is fine everywhere else. But Australia, while it's good they finally have this R18+ rating, it still seems like there's certain bits of it that are causing problems. Of course, it's caused problems as well as for South Park, for State of Decay, and of course Saints Row 4, which had to be submitted, I think it was 3, maybe 4 times, I forget which, before the Australian Classification Board were finally like, yes, okay, you can release this game in our country. So that kind of sucks, but to be honest, while it's annoying that this entire sequence has had to be removed by Obsidian, the image of a crying koala with some text does sound rather amusing in itself, so I'm actually kind of curious to see what this looks like now with that scene removed. So I guess it's not too bad, and it's at least an amusing compromise for those of you in Australia. Anyway, that is me done for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.